And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host and author, Sara DiVello, and I'm so excited to welcome tonight award-winning author Lori Roy, here to give us the inside scoop on her brand new book out now, Lake County. Lori, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you. So Lake County is set in the mid-50s in Lake County, which is a real place in Florida. And it features a young woman named Addie Ann Buckley. Addie has big dreams of escaping small town life by following her very famous Aunt Jean all the way to a career in Hollywood. Now, Aunt Jean is known to the rest of us as Marilyn Monroe. Shortly before Addie is about to realize these wonderful dreams, she tells a secret to try to protect her plan, or she tells a lie to try to protect her plan. And instead, she catapults her entire family into a night of terror, and the man she loves, she puts him on a collision course with the Tampa mob. So it's a little suspense, it's a little old Hollywood, it's a little gangster, gambling, a lot of thrills.
Yay! Well, those who know me know that those are all my favorite things. So I love old Hollywood. Cary Grant was my first crush. I've read everything that there is to read about Marilyn Monroe. And just like my book, Broadway Butterfly, I love me some old time gangsters. So I was super excited to read this book and so excited to host you. So we have a lot to talk about tonight, Lori. But first, I just
Great.
want to welcome everyone who is watching with us live on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for all the hearts up on Facebook, you guys. If you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, welcome. Here's the drill every Monday for hashtag Mystery Monday, because you know Mondays can be murder. I give you my handpicked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. So ask Lori about her research into Miss Marilyn Monroe, aka Aunt Jean. Ask her about the 1950s, this mysterious place called Lake County, Florida. Anything that you want to know. Let's jump right into the questions. Randy is joining us from YouTube saying, "Hi, Sara from hot and humid Indiana." Oh, Randy, thanks for hanging with us. We're going to try to cool you down with some thrills and chills, some spine-tingling thrills and chills. And we have, oh my goodness, our very next guest at 8 o'clock, John Copenhaver, entering the chat.
Hi, John.
I'm so excited to chat with you at 8 p.m., sir, because we're staying in the 1950s. We have a 1950s theme tonight as we jump into John's book, Hall of Mirrors, next. So I'm so excited to chat with you next, John. You better get ready because I'm going to interrogate you. Robin is joining us from Facebook saying, "Hello, Sara and Lori from
Hello.
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho." Wow, Robin, so great to see you. Welcome. Renee joining us from, she said, "Hi, Sara and Lori from stormy Southeast Florida." Oh, your fellow Floridian.
Yes.
Is Lake County on the east or the west coast, Lori?
Lake County is pretty much right in the middle of the state.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Robin says she is here for the old Hollywood. Robin,
Great.
you and me, we're vibing, right? John is saying hi. Hey, you all. Robin saying Mondays can be murder. They sure can, Robin, right? We're going to make it a little less painful for you here with Mystery and Thriller and get your week off to a killer start. John is here for the 1950s. Robin, what do you think the fascination with the 1950s are? Why do we love it besides the fashion, which I love?
Yeah. That was for me. That question. Okay. I thought you were asking one of your it's funny. A lot of my favorite thing to research with is a 1950s Sears catalog. And it's all the little things in a book, like did they have a trash can in their kitchen, for example? And what did it look like? Because it's probably not like, and did they have bags in the trash can? Did they have liners? And I pull out my 1950s Sears catalog and I go to the index and I flip through and invariably I find myself shopping the clothes and the shoes. Because there is just such a beauty to to the fashion back then, and that's a good way of wasting time, I suppose. Um, and I started reading about that whole era, that Rat Pack era, back when I was in college, that's going back a ways. Um, Read biographies about Marilyn and organized crime and politicians and other entertainers. And it just, for some reason, all collided in Lake County, Florida, which is a pretty rural area. There are some reasons why Lake County, but um, why now, I don't know. But I've long researched and just loved that era, as I think many people do. There's just a glamour about it.
So it's a glamour for you.
Um, well, of course, in this book, Marilyn Monroe brings the glamour in,
Yeah.
but I only wanted to write about Marilyn, the person, as opposed to the icon. So I gave her, and she's not the main character. She is my protagonist's aunt. So I wanted to give Marilyn this haven that I wish she would have had in life. And
Mm,
whenever she's starting at about age 19 in my fictional world, Marilyn would travel back to visit her pseudo family in this small fictional town in Southwest or in Central Florida whenever she needed to sort of recuperate, or possibly when she was kind of spiraling into a depression. This was the one place she could come in the world where she was just Jean.
wait, this is true. This is true.
No, this is what I wanted to create for her.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it.
This is what I wish she had in life.
This is
I
what you
wish
wish
she
you
would have had that one place. And in putting her in this fictional one place where she could just be herself, and for the most part, the town respects that because she's been coming there since she was Norma Jean. Um, I wanted to put her in this environment and kind of strip away all the other parts of her that so consumed her. And of
had.
course, some of those things still pop up because they had become her crutches by then.
Hmm.
Um, just maybe some of her less attractive behavior, some of her more manipulative behavior. I couldn't leave that out entirely. That wouldn't have been a well-rounded Marilyn. So that was the glamour coming into it. And of course, there's the organized crime, which of course is not glamorous, and yet we glamorize it.
Mm.
Um, but I was a little uneasy about writing gangsters, quite
Mm.
honestly. It was my first time doing it, but once I started doing it, I was super comfortable, and I liked thinking like a gangster.
Let's stay with Marilyn for a minute. So,
Okay.
why the fascination with Marilyn? Why do you want to write about her? Why do you care about her? What intrigues you about this woman?
Well, when I first started thinking about the characters, Addie came first, my protagonist, the 18-year-old, longing to get out of small town Florida. And I knew she was going to have a famous aunt. But initially, I was going to fictionalize this person. I did a lot of research I kind of call them the scream actresses of that era, the actresses that were carried around by the aliens or the monsters, and they were always damsels in distress. And then here in St. Pete, we have in our downtown area, a lot of our buildings, we're kind of known for these beautiful murals that we have. There are walking tours that you highlight them, and one of those murals is a 2-story tall mural of Marilyn Monroe in the black tank or in the black turtleneck. It's the very strong, serious actor studio Marilyn. It's not the skirt flying up over the subway Marilyn. And I saw that and I just thought, I was really intrigued and I thought, what if it's Marilyn who wants to come into my story? And so I thought about it. I started kind of getting some of the timeline of her life laid out before me, and then decided I'm only going to bring Marilyn into the story if she has something to say, and it couldn't be anybody else because I didn't want to exploit her as a character. That wouldn't have been right. I brought her on the page. She comes on the page very early in the book, or she comes into the book very early, almost the first page. And right away, she was like, heck yes, I got something to say. And she really carries the bigger themes of the book, which I hadn't anticipated. That's just kind of the uncomfortable thing about writing sometimes. It's a leap
Mm.
of faith. And but Marilyn, she came on and she was happy to be there. She was forthcoming with the good sides of herself, the not so attractive sides of herself. Um, and I don't know that I would ever attempt it again, but it worked out this time. I really enjoyed writing her.
Fabulous. Arlene is joining us from YouTube saying hi from Rochester. Hi,
Hi,
Arlene.
Arlen.
Chris is joining us also from YouTube from Ontario, Canada. Hi,
Wow.
Chris. Welcome. We have, Renee, I'm so sorry I called you Robin. I'm sorry, my friend. I meant to say Renee is joining us from stormy Southeast Florida. Thank you. John saying he loves all those 1950s little details from the Sears catalog. I love that too. Rob is saying the fashion was so great from the 1950s for sure. The snow cone bras. Yes, those were an interesting
Yeah.
torpedo pointy shape that I'm okay that we have moved away from. That's one thing I'm glad.
Yeah.
Jane, welcome to the conversation. Joining us from Facebook saying she loved the Sears catalog. Yes. Randy
Yeah.
said he would love to look through a 1950 Sears catalog. Yeah. Where'd you find that, Lori? Where'd you source it?
eBay.
See?
eBay, where all great things can be found.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think that is I appreciate the specificity of that period research. Okay, we have some confusion about Norma Jean, Aunt Jean. Yes. Okay, so Addie calls her Aunt Jean, but she is in fact Norma Jean, which was Marilyn Monroe's birth name before she got
Right.
rebranded by the big Hollywood studios as Marilyn Monroe because Norma Jean Baker just wasn't sexy enough to match.
But just a tiny little detail about Jean. So Norma Jean, that Jean is spelled with an E, but Jean in the book is not. And that came up during copy edits. And I said, well, I chose Jean without an E because Marilyn absolutely adored Jean Harlow as an actress. And she wanted, when she was going to change her name, she wanted initially to be called Jean, but kind of the manager powers to be types said there were too many Jeans in Hollywood at the time.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
kind of as a nod toward that love that she had, I dropped the E. So she's Aunt Jean. She's known as Jean in this town. That's all anybody calls her. It's a faux pas if you slip and call her Marilyn. And to the family, she is Jean because that it truly is. It's not her family by blood, but it's the family that she truly has.
I did not know that Marilyn Monroe loved Jean Harlow, but that makes sense because Jean Harlow was the reigning blonde
Mm-hmm.
before Miss Monroe. John would like to know, what do you think about the various versions of Marilyn that have been created by writers and filmmakers? Great question, John. I'm curious too.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of versions, right? And as I was researching, one of the things I did specifically, I went in search of sound bites of Marilyn's real voice.
Did you find them?
Well, I found a couple. There was one movie, and I can't remember the name of it. It's not. I should have written these things down. There's one movie where she is playing a woman who I believe comes into a family to take care of the children when the mother is for some reason out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And as a woman, like in real life, this was a time in her life when she was wishing for children. So
Uh-huh.
that role was really important to her, and she speaks and is close to her real voice as any movie ever.
Oh,
And then, but even in interviews, she would slip into the breathy voice. So there's just a couple. There was a few audio recordings I found,
mm,
and I guess I think there's, you don't judge a person till you walk in their shoes, right?
of course.
And how many people have walked in the shoes of an icon's shoes? And
No.
so I think a lot of, I mean, of course, I didn't know her, so I can't know. But one of the reviews I got suggested that I treated her with more empathy and as more of a real life person than many movies or books or biographies. And that was one of the more special things that I've um, had the pleasure review comments I've had the pleasure to get,
Mm,
because I think she was certainly exploited. She had her own flaws as well. Um, but yeah, there's countless. She's been featured in countless ways, and but what I found in everything I watched, she always stole the screen, whether it was an interview or a movie or um, the real Marilyn always stole the screen. So,
mm,
you know, she was the she was the unique one
mm,
in whatever setting it was. It wasn't necessarily the other people involved. She was the one with something intangible.
mm. Renee wants to know, Lori, did you ever dress up as Aunt Jean when you wrote the book? Do you have a white dress we should know about?
No, I don't. I have some shoes that are sort of a throwback to the 50s. Um,
I love that.
no, I did not, but I did things like I studied a lot about her voice, why she originally started using that voice as a way to combat stuttering,
Oh, I didn't know
which I thought was interesting. And I found a woman on YouTube that was crazy obsessed with Marilyn, and she did this whole segment on how to walk like Marilyn. And she broke it down like how the shoulders twist and the hips and the feet, how they step one in front of. So I watched that, like just the little tiny details, like one foot goes directly in front of the other, and that creates a certain motion. And when I watched how she would use her shoulders, how she would tip her shoulders and move her head and move her mouth, and just crazy details that most of which probably never make it into the book, and yet somehow they do. Just
John
an
is
under.
saying this is fascinating, and he wants to know how to. John, you and me. Oh my God, let's have a Maryland strut off, a Maryland
Oh yeah.
wiggle strut off, and the audience can vote who Maryland
Okay.
who wiggles like Marilyn does. In a very bizarre, to prove that our phones are listening to us, because I've been talking about the 1950s a lot as I've been reading both of your books, and I've been talking to my husband and texting my friends about various details from the books in the 1950s. My phone is listening to me. So when I logged onto Instagram last night, what popped up for me but Marilyn walking videos of various cuts of her from very different movies of analyzing her walk. That's how much
Yeah.
are listening to us. That's so crazy. Uh-oh, John has already folded. John's out. He says, I don't think John Copenhaver, I just met John in person at Thriller Fest last week. John, next time we're having the strut off, you better start practicing now. It's happening. Renee, thank you for that great question, my friend. What a great question that's spurred this conversation. John's suggesting, was it Don't Bother to Knock, the movie with her real voice?
I don't remember. I'm not sure that it would ring a bell.
Okay.
That doesn't ring a bell, but it could be.
Okay. Oh, John's
Yeah.
logging off now. He's got to go get to work on his walk. You're going to need that practice, my friend. Um, Lori, I want to talk about some of the praise that your book has earned, because the praise is good. First up, from Ace Atkins, who's coming on later at the end of this month to give us the inside scoop about his latest book, which I have right behind me, and I'm going to read next. Ace had this to say about your book. I'm going to pop it up so we can all take a little peek together. He says, Lake County is an irresistible slice of Florida noir, fashioned of great American myth making. That is just such a great first line. James M. Cain meets Harper Lee. High praise there. The story excels as both an exciting crime novel and a fine example of Southern literature. Congratulations on that rave review. And Ace knows a thing or two about fine Southern writing, and he's not the only one raving. Meg Gardiner, who is, of course, the #1 New York Times bestselling author, had this to say. I'm going to pop it up so we can all read it as well. Suspenseful, atmospheric, and surprising, Lake County pulls you and slowly ups the tension until you're holding your breath. Another remarkable crime novel from Lori Roy. You're getting all sorts of praise from the trades as well. Kirkus, who the New York Times famously called reliably curmudgeonly, was not curmudgeonly when it came to Lori Roy. They rave. Roy keeps things taut and tense throughout, springing surprises and making all of her characters count. Booklist weighing in as well with this praise, deeming you adept as ever at, hold on, I'm going to pull this up, bringing the South's beauty and soft-edged dangers to life. In this complex tale, fierce family love is pitted against ambition, obsession, and contested power. Those are 3 of my favorite things. Lori, let's talk about your ability to render the South. Because we're seeing a moment where Southern noir is really starting to see it, be in the spotlight with S.A. Cosby, Ace Atkins, so many other fellow Southern writers. Tell us about what you think is key to conveying the South in its depth and complexity, in its beauty and its ugly. What do you think? Tell us about that.
Well, it is that juxtaposition between what's beautiful about it and what's ugly about it. Because and that's Southern Gothic, at the heart of Southern Gothic. And when you do that, you amplify both, because by comparison, they're both amplified. It's more beautiful because it's sitting against something more, not so beautiful. I love the texture of the setting. I'm always like, I'm kind of finishing up my next book, and I'm starting to think about the idea for the one after that. And I'm always looking for a gritty setting. And that's certainly what I find in the South. I don't necessarily seek this out, but it is what happens in my stories. I write about strong women. And they're, not strong because they have a big job or they're in a position of power, like a sheriff or a detective or something. They are strong, like a woman who's raised a couple kids in rural Central Florida has to be strong. And that's the strength that interests me. This book, that was one of the big themes that came out of it, was the difference between power and strength. Power can be corrupt. Strength is the pure form that we should strive for. And I find the South a great backdrop for that. And it's ripe for the picking to find stories. And it feels like home. I think for a writer, you have to find what feels like home. So all these people that you're mentioning, I know the South is their home, and they love it, but they also don't want to hide from maybe what they see in their lives or in their worlds as a problem. I don't know. That's a long-winded way to say I like a gritty setting, and I think we probably all find different things in our Southern literature. But yeah.
Robin saying strong women come in many versions.
Yes.
Great point, Robin. Absolutely.
Yep.
Y'all, the book is out now, and you can order from our favorite strong woman-owned independent bookstore. That is, of course, Murder by the Book in Houston, Texas. And so whether you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can order here. So click and get your copy of Lake County, and let us know what you think of this gritty Southern setting, this Southern noir that has earned all of this praise. Lori, thank you so much for coming on and giving us the inside scoop on Lake County. What a pleasure to host you, and congratulations on your fabulous book.
Thank you so much. Great conversation.
We're going to keep the 1950s in full swing. So go get your Jello mold and your gimlet and get back in front of the computer at the top of the hour when I'll be back with John Copenhaver. Stay tuned.